You can have the prettiest forehand on the planet, but if you smash rackets or make bad line calls or just act like a jerk, ain't nobody gonna wanna play with you. You see, tennis has an unwritten code about how you carry yourself on court. So in today's video, we're gonna be looking at 10 rules of tennis etiquette that every player needs to know. So let's go ahead and jump on in. 1, warming up. Now, it might surprise you to know that tennis is actually one of the only sports where you warm up with your opponent and not against them. You see, the goal's not to show off. It's not to blast winners, hit the ball 1,000 miles an hour, or run them back and forth from corner to corner, show off your great drop shot. The point is for you and them to both get loose and to both find your rhythm. Number 2, racket smashing and outbursts. Look, everybody gets frustrated, especially in the game of tennis. You miss that easy setup volley, you double fault and give up the game. We've all been there. But losing control doesn't show strength. It's not a good thing to do. It actually makes us look more unhinged. You see, control is strength. And the player who can actually control themselves even when everything is going wrong, those are the players that players will remember, but for the right reason. 3, targeting opponents. Now, there's a big difference between smart tactics and bad intentions. If I get a nice little volley here and I'm going to hit the ball at the other player's feet, or I'm even aiming for their right hip, well, that's just good strategy. But if I get angry and then I hit that volley and I'm going at the other player out of anger, well, that is out of bounds. That is not cool. And you'd think this would go without saying, but even on the pro level, you see this happen. 4, noise and talking during points. Now, during a point, we do have to keep the noise down. Obviously, there's grunts and some are much louder than others. But there's no midpoint yell outs like, let's go. Those have to wait until after the point. And when you do speak to the opponent, let's keep it positive. You can say, well done, good job. If you want to clarify a call or even question that call, that is completely fine. But sarcasm or jeering or trash talk, those are things that most likely shouldn't be done. So the rule of thumb is, if what you're about to say doesn't build respect, it's probably best not to say it. 6, honesty and acknowledging luck. Tennis, it runs on honesty. Why? Because we're our own line judges. So in reality, our integrity is our reputation. So what does that mean? Well, it simply means let's call it like it is. If the ball's out, let's call it out. If it clips the line, even though that point matters so much, we have to call it in. And here's the big one. If I'm not positive, then I have to give that point to the other player. And on another note, it really helps to acknowledge luck. In tennis etiquette, if I hit the ball, it clips the net and falls over and I win the point, or I shank the ball, it gets weird spin, it catches the line and I win the point. Listen, nobody loves someone who acts like they meant to do that. Nobody means to do that. So what do? You lift that hand up and then you give the universal, smile. Why? Because people respect humility a lot more than denial. 7, the underarm serve. The underarm serve, one of the most controversial legal shots in tennis. Now, some, they call it disrespectful, and others call it really good strategy. I go with the latter. I think it's brilliant strategy, but there is a difference here. Intent is everything. If I'm playing someone and they're playing all the way back at the back fence, hey, look, I have no problem slipping in a nice little underhand serve because that's just situational awareness. I think that's brilliant. But if I'm serving underhand just to humiliate them or to disrespect them, well, that is out of bounds. 8, celebrate with class. There is nothing wrong with celebrating big points. In fact, I actually teach my players to do it. That is a huge mental win there. But there's a big difference between celebrating with passion and showboating. So fist pumps, absolutely. Let's go, that's what you need to be doing. But when it turns into yelling across the net, we're taunting, we're jeering, well now it's crossed the line. 9, cell phone etiquette. Now here's a modern one. When you go into a match, listen, silence those cell phones. If you're playing in a match and then your phone rings mid-point, the other player can actually call that, and to be honest, they would be right to. So silence that thing and put it on up. And then in that same vein, try not to text when you're in the middle of a match, even on changeovers. You're in a match, focus. If you're on court, be on court. Save the other stuff for when the match is over. Number 10, after the match. You know, one thing that makes tennis so special, I love after the match, whether you win or lose, both players, they come into the net and they shake hands or they tap rackets or they say, well done. There's no eye rolls, no excuses, and no disappearing act. Win or lose, we end with class. And why? Because how we end the match says more about us than the score ever could. Wrapping it up. Now, for the most part, the best players, they don't just hit the ball well. They actually carry themselves well. Now notice, I did say for the most part, because there are some jokers out there who break all of these rules. But in general, the best players are those who carried themselves well. Because tennis etiquette's not about being proper, it's about respect. You respect yourself, you respect the opponent, you respect the game, and that's what makes tennis one of the greatest sports on the planet. All right, guys, well, hey, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it helped. And if it did, be sure and like and/or subscribe. We got a whole lot more videos coming out soon. But until then, thanks again, and I look forward to seeing you on court soon.